Welcome, everybody, to the Patty G Show. I am Patty G, your host. I have Vishal Vasanji of Relief Telemed here. We're chatting about the recent outbreak of the COVID-19 and the adjustments that everybody is having to go through as far as the change in pace for life, the change in pace for business, and, just how everything is affected that we may not even think about. From the implementation of telemed is skyrocketing, as well as people now having to homeschool their kids with, Vishal doing his work at the same table that his kids were doing their schooling, as it were, today. So Vishal, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time and your willingness to chat at 8:00 at night about, everything going on in the craziness that we live in right now.
Yeah, man, we've been trying to do this for a while, and it took a crisis for us to get together and finally make this happen.
It took a crisis. A crisis and a city lockdown.
Yeah, and this is the only time that I have to kind of do other stuff outside of work and home responsibilities. So it's good to be here.
Dude, well, I love it, man. So we were talking a little bit about homeschooling. How is that as a business owner trying to get things off? I mean, you're trying to get things off the ground. People are trying to survive. So there's two different parallels right there to begin with. What is it like trying to get something, further off the ground and further implemented? Because while telemedicine's been around, it hasn't really been practiced as much as it is now, at least to the best of my understanding.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I couldn't do it without my wife kind of taking the bull by the horns when it comes to homeschooling and just taking care of the home front. It just kind of hit us all of a sudden as a company. Just within 24 hours, we went from, hey, we're going to officially launch this company in 30 to 45 days to, hey, we need to launch it in 2 days. So we were literally, me and my co-founder were putting in hour upon hours of just getting the company ready, because we realized that every hour we weren't live, we were missing out on business. And so the first 2-3 days after, everything kind of really happened in Baton Rouge, it was nuts for us. I mean, we were sleeping maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, just trying to get things in place, trying to rush, trying to find resources and launch the company. And so it was nuts. We packed about 45 days worth of stuff into 2 to 3 days. So it was definitely definitely interesting. Let's put it that way. It was an experience.
So walk me through that. I mean, so your scheduled launch was what, 30 something days from now, or 40 something days?
Yeah, 30 to 45 days from now, literally. Yeah. And
okay, so what did y'all have to do? Like, how did y'all ramp up so fast to go live so quickly?
So we wanted to have a lot of the processes in place, right? And we had to cut corners, right? Like we realized that we were not going to have everything in place the way we wanted to. And Chris, one of our senior advisors basically told us, you're never going to be ready. You just need to press the button. And so we just said, look, let's press the button and we'll figure it out as we go. And that's essentially what we've done. We've kind of just figured it out as we went, and we built processes as issues came up, right? So, we picked up 7 to 8 clinics in a matter of 48 hours, and had to get them onboarded, had to get 30 doctors trained, had to get them live, had to work through their support issues and be there for them. And at the same time, try to go solicit more business, because this was our moment, right? And so you probably saw on LinkedIn where I posted something about getting up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning and saying, seize the moment. That's what it was. We were literally saying, we need to go get it. This is our chance. And so I've got a great partner, which helps because it allows me to just go sell. And once I sell, he takes over and gets them implemented, right? So it definitely takes a team effort, and you got to be in sync together on the business side, but even on the home front, right? So in a normal circumstances, I'd be at the office for 12 hours, right? I'm really at home. I got kids doing homeschool on the other side of the table, and I'm on this side of the table with dual monitors, hiding behind it, taking sales calls and talking to vendors and talking to James, making sure the tech was right, talking to clinics. It was nuts. It was crazy. Like if you look at the pictures that were taken, you're just like, this is bananas. And but it was great because I've got a great partner at work and I've got a great partner at home. I mean, she literally has taken homeschool and I don't have to do anything. She creates hour by hour schedule for us, and we just follow. All I have to do is follow it. Make sure the kids do what they're supposed to do at a certain time, and it allows me to do what I need to do. So,
right.
You got to be organized. You got to be super organized on every front to be able to do something like this.
Dude, that's 100%. So I was homeschooled from 4th through on high school all the way to college. Then I went to LSU, and just that disruption in your day from a parent's perspective is huge, especially if you're trying to build a business. You can't, it's hard to multitask, where it's hard to be on sales calls and it's hard to homeschool the kids and give them a valuable education. So I know that's definitely a struggle, but let's kind of back up, to a world that is not seen at the moment, where it was 3 weeks ago before this even hit us, before we even chatted about this. Prior to this, not many people talked about telemed. And so what kind of gave you the idea to come up with this originally, and how and when did that happen?
So this is year 3 for us.
Okay.
This kind of came about, I used to do urgent care clinics. And I quickly realized that you could scale, like you were bound by the 4 walls of your clinic, right? And geographically, right, there was a boundary that you could pull patients from, right? So we always try to figure out how do you go beyond that, right? How do you leverage the money you've already sunk in your assets and multiply it, right? Without having to go build more places, right? And so around that time, healthcare technology was coming up. We even piloted it internally within the clinics, but there was just too many friction points, right? There was too many patients had to do too many things to get it. And anytime you ask, just human behavior, right? Anytime you ask somebody to do something, you have to do a lot of steps to get to the end goal. They're not going to do it, right? They're less likely to do it. So we just scrapped it. We said it's still not there yet, right? The experience was not there yet. So, when I left that, I had all this research. I had all these vendor relationships. I had all this market studies that I had done, and I just said, why don't I just go do it, right? And it was right around that time telemedicine was coming up, so people started knowing about it outside of Louisiana, right? So if you look at the coasts are usually the first people to do stuff, and then things move in. So the coasts were already doing it, right? I've got family out there that use it, so they were like, so that's where I kind of got the idea, and I said, okay, well, no one's doing it here locally. Let me be the first to do it locally, right? And it's not innovative, it's not brand new, but if no one's doing it and I do it and I start championing it locally, then I can pick up some market share, and hopefully somebody comes in and scoops us up, right?
Right, and that's a key point to talk about in regards to, it's not necessarily new or innovative, but it's new to here. Like you said, on the coastline, people pick it up quick, but in a little old Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we're still kind of slow to take on technology of that nature. So I see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I always say Baton Rouge is probably a couple years behind Texas, right? I've got cousins that live in Texas, and he'll say, "Oh man, this is what's going on in Texas." And sure enough, about 2-3 years later, we start getting the wave, right? So if you really want to see what's coming, look at like Texas or look at California and see what they're doing. California is probably 5 to 7 years ahead of us, right? Look at what they're doing today. It's going to eventually get here, right? It's just a matter of time. And so that's kind of what I've always done. I've always followed what California did, what Texas did, because I've got family out there. And then just said eventually it's going to make its way here, right? And so telemed was kind of making its way down this way, right? And I said, well, let me be the guy here locally that does it. And like I said, when the right opportunity comes about, somebody scoops us up because we've got the market share here locally, right? And so that was really the genesis behind it. It was how do you deliver care quickly and efficiently, right? Because I've got small children at home. Both of us work at home. Anytime the kids get sick, one of us has to shuffle our schedules to get the kids to the doctor's office, and it's just not a great experience, right? And so something had to change, and we were trying to be the people that changed it. And it was hard. It was really hard. It was getting the old guard to. What we always heard was, we know it's here, we know people want it, but it was always that but at the end, right? But at the end. And unfortunately, it took a crisis like this for people to say, for the floodgates to kind of open up. And that's literally what has happened. The floodgates have literally opened up out of necessity, right? Out of need.
Right.
And so, there's a good and a bad side for us. The good is, yeah, we're picking up clients, right? The bad is we're not picking them up fast enough, right? So there's people that are already hooking up onto vendors, right? Because they're out searching for it, and our team can't move fast enough to get it. That's okay. The silver lining is, when we are ready, we don't have to educate the public anymore, right? So if you actually look at our forecast and pro forma, we had a lot of money in there baked into just education, right? Into educating the public, teaching the public what telemedicine is, convincing them, right? You got to keep peppering them with marketing so that they bite, right? Well, That's no longer going to happen, because now we don't have to tell them what telemedicine is. They already know what it is. Now it's just a matter of, hey, we're the brand you need to pick, right? So the marketing changes, the messaging changes, and it becomes a little bit easier on the downside of all this to pick up customers. So you got it. Now it's a game of positioning for us, as opposed to just being the first leader. It's about, how do you position yourself within the market, so that when all this stuff does calm down, we're the people that people turn to. So our strategy literally changed in 2 weeks, right?
You had to.
You have to, right? That's kind of the beauty of a startup, right? That's the beauty of being a small company, is you can literally do this with the market, right? And figure your way out. Whereas big companies kind of get stuck in their way, because for them to change strategies is like a Titanic, right? It takes forever to turn. Whereas I can turn in 24 hours if I want to. So, it's an interesting time, but I love it, man. It's fun. It's every day's a challenge. So cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you never think about companies, they wait for the opportune time to start. And for some, it's in, a market downturn, and they're able to jump in when it's low and tell people, oh, use this product and it'll work great. For you, it's, oh, we've got a crisis on our hands, but we also have a technology that we've been building and trying to educate. And now we don't have to. It's more of, hey, out of necessity, you really got to try what we're offering, because at this point, it's going to help you more so than it's going to hurt you, if it is even going to hurt you, which it's not, because you can't get to the patients fast enough. In this type of situation, it's huge to make that initiation of changing it up as out of the norm, especially when it comes to, medicine. Right.
It's healthcare has always been notoriously difficult to move with the times, right? Mm-hmm. And it took a crisis for them to finally realize, like, there's a better way to deliver healthcare. Because they had to, right?
Right.
You literally, I think the stat is, by April 7th, hospitals in New Orleans are going to be overrun, right? And they have to relieve pressure off the hospitals, and they got to use technology to do it, right? The first 2-3 days of the crisis, I mean, every major hospital in Louisiana was calling us, right? Just trying to figure out, hey, how can y'all help us? How can y'all help us? What can y'all do? And they were literally like, and we need something yesterday. We need something yesterday, right? And so, it forced people to finally come to terms with, hey, this stuff really works, and this stuff is here to stay, and we got to implement it, because we have no other options. The other option is people don't get healthcare, right? And that's not an option right now, right? So, a little bit of luck on our end, right? But we were also ready to pounce on it when it happened. And so, they always say in crises, there's the winners and then there's the losers. I was telling somebody, it feels weird being on the winning side of all this, when there's so many people out there that are not on the winning side of it, right? And so it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. And so, we try to do our part. When we need help, right, we'll post stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn saying, hey, if you've got any kind of skill sets that we could use, we're happy to bring you on board because we need the help. And so, if people are sitting at home looking for stuff to do, as time goes on, we're going to need more help, right? And we're willing to work with people to help them out while they're at home. So it's interesting. Okay. It's not traditional.
No, it's not traditional because you can't bring somebody into the office and conduct an interview and say, okay, this is what we're looking for. It's all right. Let's set up a Skype meeting, a Zoom meeting, or whatever type of meeting it is. And it's going to be within 5 minutes. All right. What do you do? Okay, great. We need that. You're hired. Just come on board and start working.
Yeah.
And how is it? Yeah. And how is it managing that? I mean, how is it managing, employees, both that have been with you for a while virtually, and also people you're just now hiring? How is it managing them, and what are y'all doing to do that successfully?
I think it's all about communication, right? So we use Slack, like we live and die by Slack. And it just we're constantly talking to each other through Slack, staying in tune with each other. And when you work virtually or remotely, it's all about communicating with everybody and staying in tune with each other. But also you have to trust people, right? Like you have to trust that when you give somebody something to do, you can't be there to make sure they're doing it, right? You just have to hope and trust that they're doing it and they deliver you what you're looking for, right? And so you got to trust the people that, if I tell James, hey, James, we need to go hire an intern to do this, I have to trust that he's going to go hire an intern that knows what he or she is doing. And I have to trust his ability to go hire the right people. So, and some of it's friends. I mean, we've brought in a couple friends that are like, hey, are you good at this? Can you handle this? Great. We're going to go from friendship to business relationship, and you have to kind of manage that, right? But you can inherently trust your friend to always look out for you, right, and to deliver a good product. So it's different, right? I miss the kind of hanging out in the office and just kind of turning your chair around and not talking about work. And so that's the piece that's a little that's what's missing right now. But I think in due time, luckily we've hired everybody that's in Baton Rouge. So when things do open up and the offices do open up, we'll be able to get back together and honestly meet for the first time. I haven't even met two of the people that we're bringing on board. I've never met them. I don't even know what they look like. Right? I just know that they have that. I talked to them on a Zoom call. And that was it. At this part, like I hadn't even seen a picture of them, right? And so it's I don't know what they look like, honestly. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting, right?
Right. When it's rewind 3 or 4 weeks ago, that was unheard of. Hiring somebody to work remotely, sight unseen, especially in a startup. If you're going to hire somebody, you want to establish a relationship, make sure they, fit the company's values and they're able to fall under what you want them to do. Whereas now we have to adapt or you just drown, and you can't get the work done if you don't adapt to the changing times, which unfortunately is all remote. I mean, we're supposed to stay shelter in place for the next, till April 13th. And so how can we adapt and what can we do to adapt is going to make or break companies, especially in this hard time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've done, strategy we've taken on is we're putting everybody on a 3-month contract and saying, look, we're going to give you for the next 3 months. At the end of 3 months, we'll reevaluate everything, right? Well, if you work out, you turn into a full-time job. If you like us, we can mutually, if you like each other, this will be a full-time gig for you. If not, no hard feelings. We can part ways and you can go back to doing what you're doing, your day job, or go find something else. So for us, it's low commitment, right? It's low investment, low risk for the next 3 months. We got them on board. And it's almost like a trial period, right? If we can make it work now, right, when we're remote and we're not seeing each other and the relationship works out, it's going to be even better once we get in the office, right, when we're together. So it's been an interesting strategy, and it's worked so far, right? Everyone's like, that's perfect. Like 3 months, you guarantee me a contract. That's great. And then we'll reevaluate after that. So it gives flexibility to both me and who we're bringing on board to test the waters for each other, right?
Right.
And also, conference calls are interesting now because there's children in the background, there's dogs in the background, there's it's so forgiving. So conference calls are so forgiving now, whereas before you didn't even think about, like, you were like, be quiet. Like you're telling your children, be quiet. Don't say a word. You know, I'm on a call. And now it's just like kids are doing homework in the background. They're playing Xbox, watching TV, and you're trying to conduct business. And everyone's like, we get it. We understand. We're sitting at home and our kids are doing the exact same thing. So it's,
Right.
we had a CEO of a hospital doing $1 billion in revenue, and she was homeschooling her children while we're on a conference call. Right. And she was like, hold on, my children aren't listening to me. And the call paused for about 2 minutes, like dead silent for 2 minutes till, while she tended to her children, and then got back on. And everyone's like, we totally get it. Like, we're going through the same thing you're going through.
We're right there with you in the trenches. So, I think if you can see kind of like a bright light coming out of all this, everybody we kind of learn to relax a little bit, and you say, you know what, stuff's going to happen. Kids are going to scream. I'm going to have a kid walking behind me with just a diaper on, eating a PB&J sandwich, and you just got to roll with it.
Yeah.
But before we might have been so, okay, we got to be professional. We got to be, blur out the background and everything. And now it's like, hey, let's embrace the fact that we're all human. We're all going through the same thing right now, and just get done what we can get done.
Yeah. I think it's what this has done. It's forced everybody to really focus on just the work itself and not all the other stuff around it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it'll be interesting to see what this world looks like after all this calms down, right? I think remote work is here to stay. I think a lot of companies are going to change business models when it comes to, do we really have to have all this office space? Do we really have to have all these employees showing up in the office every day? Can people be more productive at home, right? As opposed to making that 45-minute trek in the morning and 45-minute trek home.
Right.
Can we pick up half of extra productivity from an employee if we just allow them to work from home? I think all these are questions that companies are going to start asking on the other side of this. And I think you're going to see a shift in the way business is done in 6 to 9 months. I feel sorry for commercial real estate. If I'm a commercial real estate guy, I'm really wondering, like, when that lease is up on that office space, like, are they going to renew the entire spot, right? Because I've heard companies already say, got 4 offices in Baton Rouge. On the other side of this, we're probably going to consolidate down to 2.
Geez, so cut half. I mean, that's a drastic move, but I mean, you're right. I can get up and within a matter of 15 minutes, I can be working, whereas before it might've been an hour. And not only that, but when you have people working from home, at least for some people, not everybody. I mean, I know a lot of people like going to the office because they like to get away from the house. They like to get out of the house. But for those that kind of thrive in the home environment where they've got a setup that's equal or better than what they've got at the office, they're more productive and they're more happy. They're happier. And when you have happier employees, your productivity is going to skyrocket. And I'm right there with you. A lot of companies are going to see that and they're going to say, whoa, either A, nothing got done, or B, a lot more got done than they would have done at the office.
And think about it. If you're just head down working at the office, you're really not interacting with people all that much anyway, right?
Right.
And now with communication technology, with like Slack and text messaging and all that, you can still conversate with your friends, right? Mm-hmm. While you're working. When it's lunchtime, you can still meet up for lunch somewhere, hang out for that hour, right? Or if you just want to get away today at Starbucks, you can go to Starbucks or CC's and just grab a coffee with your buddy, right? And kind of hang out. Or I'm plugging a lot of local businesses, but go to Brouhaha and spend 2 hours. Go to Brouhaha with your coworker and spend 2 hours together at a table drinking coffee and working, and not have to be in an office environment, right? And so, I think it's going to change, and for us, man, it's been a godsend. Like, I mean, our operating expenses are literally nil to none, right? Because we're not having to. I mean, luckily we're at the tech park, so they kind of take care of us. But a small part of me thinks, like, do I really want office space after all this? Like, I can just operate a remote workforce and just have a really small office for myself and a couple key employees, and that's about it. Just let everybody else work from home, right? And so we're asking those questions, right? Like, is it really necessary to have all that office space? If clients get used to meeting over virtual, over Zoom or like me and you were doing, then why not do it? It's easier. People don't have to travel around to go to meetings, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was I know I find myself during working hours, whereas if I'm at the office, somebody's going to buzz me, in the inside of the office and say, "Hey, can you come help me with this? Hey, can you come look at this?" But
My wife was texting me. My wife texted me. She goes, "You hired me. I'm not sight unseen."
There's always the exception to the rule, right?
Yeah.
But getting
Yes,
getting
my wife has joined the company, so it's all hands on deck right now.
Hey, man, recruit where you can, right?
Yeah. We're cutting overhead. We're cutting overhead.
That's it. Gosh, I love that. But, like going back to the office space, I know, at least I experienced it, I'm sure a whole lot of other people experience, there's just little interruptions that occur in the office, whether it be somebody walking in and you turning around and see if they need anything from you, or, somebody really coming up to you and like giving you a piece of paper. And that little distraction can take away 5 minutes of time. I mean, I know for me today and yesterday and the day before, when I'm at home, I was down working and I looked up and 3 hours passed. And I'm like, oh, wow, like I've been sitting here focused and not moved for 3 hours and gotten so much done. And it's those questions and those results that we're seeing now and we're going to see is, okay, well, maybe let's test 1 or 2 days away from the office and see if that works, and then start balancing back and forth with who is better at home, who is better in the office. I mean, I know today I was on the phone with 4 different clients, and I'm sitting at home on the phone working them through, helping them get stuff taken care of. Right now with the SBA loans going through, we're helping them with that and helping them, get everything and get the process going. And I was able to help them from my home on my phone. At one point I'm sitting there talking with them and I was able to FaceTime with them and see what they're looking at on their computer screen, which if they're in a different state is much more efficient than me sitting there and emailing them back and forth. Having that verbal confirmation and now being able to share screens and people learning how to do that. I know for a lot of people that may not have used that in their daily practice, but now they are. Now they're saying, okay, we have to find a way to adapt. I can't get to you. What can I do to show what I'm working on and what you're working on? So if there are any questions, and for me, if I see stuff, I can work better. And if I'm able to follow what you're doing and see the forms you're filling out, I can better guide you than actually sending back and forth and then coming and meeting in person. I mean, at that point, we wasted 4.5, 5 hours when we could have gotten this thing done in 3.
But don't you think about this? Tech companies have been doing this forever.
Right.
That's how tech companies leverage. That's why tech companies grow so fast, because they leverage technology to multiply themselves 10 times over, right, and make things more efficient.
Dude, absolutely.
All these tools have been out, Zoom and GoToMeeting and throughout whatever video conferencing platform. They've all been around forever, right? It's just there's been a little bit of a stubbornness of people just saying, no, you can only get business done sitting face to face with somebody, right? And I think all those age-old, this is how you do business, this is how it's always been done, has just been thrown out the window, right?
Right.
And now it's just like, there's a new way to do business. There's new technology, and people are being forced to use it and are realizing, this is actually a lot better than what we used to do. And it's a lot more efficient, right?
Yeah, it works better.
We train 20 doctors at one time across 5 different locations.
See, the 5 different locations is more impressive than the 20 doctors, because you're reaching 5 different spaces that you could only have to bring all 20 to one space.
Pre-coronavirus, I would have had to go to each clinic one by one,
right?
Sat down with them and trained the doctors on how to use it. That was our methodology. And they asked, they're like, hey, can you come train us? I was like, look, to be honest, under normal circumstances, I would, right? But this is, probably not the right thing to do. Well, let's just jump on a big video conferencing call. Jumped on a big video conferencing call, did a screen share, walked them through exactly how to use our platform, and within 30 to 35 minutes, they were live. They were on a roll, like they were seeing patients live, right? And so, what would have taken probably a week, and me driving to location to location to location, and me being unproductive during that whole entire time, within 30 minutes, I was able to train them all, get them all going, and they were on their way, right?
Dude.
And then I could go, right?
Right. 100%. We've got Namisha Patel chiming on Facebook Live, and she's saying that working remotely really gives a whole new meaning to time management. An 8-hour workday can be done in 3 to 4 hours if you have less interruptions. So
Yeah.
that's so true. You can get it done in a lot less time. And for people now working on billable hours, you can now get some more clients and you can now grow if you're spending less time on one client. You know, if it would have taken you 2 hours to spend on one client at the office, can you do it less from home? You know?
And that client that would come to the office, right, saying, hey, I need to meet with you and talk with you, right,
Mhm.
now is probably going to be more likely like, hey, let's just jump on a video call and let's knock out what we got to knock out, right?
Yeah, let's chat. Give me a phone call. You know, let's do a FaceTime. Let's do a Zoom conference. Let's communicate virtually and accomplish everything. And this, you know, it opens up the door to now being able to work with clients outside of your city, outside of your
Yeah.
state, and even outside of the country if you're able to provide the type of service that they need. And it opens so many doors with this virtual technology and this virtual meeting. I mean, before yesterday, I didn't even know how to use this going live with 2 people. But I had to learn how, because we can't see each other face to face. I had to learn how to adapt. Otherwise, the podcast was just going to drop until we could meet face to face again. You know, and
no, so telemedicine works the same way, right? The reason doctors like it is because the visit is much more efficient, right? And so very early on, when the first doctors that piloted our software, one of the feedbacks he gave us was, he goes, that same patient that used to come to my clinic spent 20 minutes talking to me. That same patient now, when they go on the video, does it in 5 minutes, right? They're very succinct. They're to the point because they don't want to sit there and talk to me for 20 minutes on a video through their phone or through the computer, right? When they're face to face, they'll ask me 10 different questions about how this is going on in my life, how that's going on in life. Whereas through video, it's very to the point and very succinct. And I think it's interesting because we never thought about it that way, but it's true. Like when you FaceTime somebody, you don't just sit there and chit chat about, unless it's your buddy and it's after hours, right? And then
right. And you're sharing a beer, you're smoking a cigar together.
Right. But when you're trying to conduct business, you really just keep it really tight, right? Keep it very to the point, and you go about your day, right? No one wants to sit in front of a computer for an hour and talk, right? But they'll sit face for an hour and talk.
So true.
So it's interesting. It's going to be. I think it's going to affect travel industry. I think people are going to travel less for business meetings. I think they're just going to hop on calls like this and knock it out if they can. Unless a face-to-face really does help the deal in general, I think everything's just going to be done remotely, and business will be handled virtually. And I think that's the new way of doing business going forward.
Right, and I'm with you to an extent. I mean, there's some stuff that is better in person. Not necessarily has to happen in person, but can be done better in person. And like you said, if the deal requires you to go in person and you think you can close with somebody better in person, by all means, continue going in person. But I'm right there with you for training sessions. If I can train you digitally, why do I need to go and actually sit down with you and train you? If you're in Seattle, I'm in Miami, that's an expensive flight for me to fly up there and train you, whenever I can hop on a conference call and train you for a fraction of the cost. Now, there is some stuff that still has to happen. If you want to get your, a board together and they have to meet in person because they have to sign documents.
Yeah.
But even then, how close are we to becoming fully accepting of DocuSign?
That's how I do it. I don't have a printer at home. Literally, all paperwork, all contracts we're signing right now, literally I just sign it. I send it to them, and I don't know how they figure it out, but they figured out how to get it signed. But I don't have a printer at home, so I tell them, I was like, I can't print and scan. You're going to get electronic signature for me, and that's how we're doing. That's how we're getting contracts signed. That's how we're getting proposals signed. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason to have to sign paperwork anymore.
Yeah, I know I did
rules too. I mean, there's some laws that require wet ink, right? I think that's going to change. That's going to change quickly, I think.
And if it doesn't change quickly, the conversation will start being had. People will start talking about, okay, what is a way we can remove some of these hiccups in the process? How can we become more efficient as a society as a whole? Is it a way to implement more digital technology that we've been forced to because of this global? I mean, it truly is we're looking at this on a global scale. This is not just happening in our state, in our city. Everybody is having to go through this similar situation. Now, everybody may not be on lockdown like we are, but everybody's having to adapt and overcome obstacles that they wouldn't have had to do prior to this occurring in our society.
Oh yeah, interesting story. So yesterday I was on a call with he does digital health. He does you can visit with your doctor through text messaging, right? Mm-hmm. And so he was one of the hospital CEOs connected us, and I was having a conversation. He was in Canada, right? And we're talking, and they're on lockdown in Toronto. And I was just talking to him, and it just kind of hit me. I was like, literally every single person in this world is going through the exact same thing right now. That's if you think about it on that scale, it kind of hits you, right? It's like everybody in this world. This is probably one of the few times in the history, right, of the world where everyone is going through the same issue together. Like everybody, every country, every person is going through the same issue together, right? Usually there's a crisis in one country, the rest of the world is okay, right? There's maybe a crisis in two countries, the rest of the world is okay. But this truly is a global crisis, and everybody is going through the same thing. So it's interesting. A lot of studying is going to happen post all of this. A lot of PhD theses are being formed right now. Let's put it that way.
There's going to be a lot of theses being argued about remote connectivity and actual, efficiency within the remote network. But I was talking with a
PhD, and he's been trying to find a topic, and he's like, I just found my topic: how digital health affects crisis, like how it can help how it can help the healthcare system in crisis mode. And he's going to write a whole PhD program is going to be on that, and so he's using us as a live case. He's going to take a lot of data that we generate and stuff like that, but it's pretty cool to think that I think that's kind of the silver lining in all this is there's going to be a lot of lessons learned on the other side of this, and so while it is bad that's happening and there's a lot of tragedy going on, I think there's a lot of good that's going to come out of it on the other side.
Right, and I was listening to Talk 107.3 this morning, and Brian Haldane was talking about how it took Katrina for people to really use text messaging. And he keeps pushing, is this the pandemic that gets us to really push out, telemedicine? And I'm right there with him like, yeah, it is, because we now have a necessity. And I was talking with a client today, and we were chatting about Katrina, about how that was focused on our general region. That was Louisiana was impacted. New Orleans was impacted furthermore. And so for us, our world stopped, but the rest of the world continued. Well, for this, the whole world has stopped. And it gets people really thinking on more of a global scale outside of their community, like, oh, wow, we're not alone in what we're experiencing. A lot of other people are going through this. And what can we do to adapt, and what can we do to help when we can?
I think people get creative. I've seen some pretty creative things going on right now that you probably would have thought was stupid and dumb before all this. I mean, can you imagine doing a Zoom party or a Zoom happy hour with your friends?
Yes.
Constantly every night across the country, people are getting together, popping the cork together, drinking together, have your setup like this. And you would have thought that was the dumbest thing before all this happened, right? You're like, that's weird. Who does that? Right. And now I bet you people are doing it more and more. It's like, hey, we can't get together because we're all busy. Let's just jump on a Zoom party after hours, after kids go to bed. Let's just hang out and talk, right? Because we can't, our schedules don't allow us to hang out, right? So,
right. Or, I've got a friend who is working in Chile. I can text him up and say, hey, let's get on a Zoom chat because now it's more convenient for us to hang out and talk across seas. Yeah. And it's, we're able to connect that way. And I got a friend in Tennessee. We can now start using that because beforehand it's, we only can see each other in person. Whereas now that door is open. Yeah. And it's okay. No, we can still have a good time virtually. We just may not be able to touch each other, which even if we're together, we still can't touch each other apparently. So, but social distancing. That's it. Social distancing, man. At least 6 feet, right? But it definitely opens the door for a lot of stuff that wasn't even thought of prior to this occurring. We we have always operated under the same assumption. Like you said, with Baton Rouge and Louisiana specifically, we're always several years behind the coasts. Well, now all the coasts are, oh, we'll work from home. No problem. Not a big deal. Whereas now in Louisiana, we're like, oh, snap, we have to work from home. And you have to have the meeting with your business. Has anybody remoted in to their work computer? Does everyone know how to do this? Yes. Like, you have to plan, and we have to go through, we have to have a meeting, and we have to talk about what to do when you remote in, how to stay active at work, when to take breaks, and all of that stuff. Whereas on the coast and the more, for the lack of a better term, advanced cities in this regard, in this technical regard, they're saying, okay, guys, just stay home and work. Yeah. We know you can do it because y'all all have already done it in the past. Well, now it's normal for them to do that, and they already have low office space. They already don't have everybody coming in every day. Whereas us, you got to be there. Show up during office hours, be there during office hours, leave when the office closes. That's how we operate. And now the question comes up is that necessary after?
Yeah, I almost think it's going to be frowned upon on the other side of this, right?
Really?
I think if companies don't start allowing their employees to work remotely, I think it's going to be a negative. I think every company, like, it used to be a perk, like, oh, we allow you to remote work, right? We allow flexible schedule. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to become, every company is going to be like, new employees are going to start asking, like, okay, do I have the option to work from home, right? Do I have that option? And if you say no, it's going to be like, well, why not? Like, for 3 months, 4 months, however long this thing lasts, we all did it, right? We all worked from home. Why can't I do it now? Like, what's the difference, right? Yeah. So I definitely think people are going to ask that question, especially the younger generation, right? Some of the people who come out or whatever, we're going to be like, can I just work from home? Like, y'all don't have the technology to work from home? Like, how old is your company that you can't allow people to work from home, right?
No, that's definitely going to be a big selling point for the Gen Zers that are coming out of college. They're because they have the gusto to ask the question of, oh, so what can I do from home? Yeah, I understand that y'all have office hours and you require people to do that, but can I just do this from home? And it's gonna be a big turnoff if they say, well, no, you got to come in still. They're gonna say, okay, well, you know what? I can do the same job at a different company where they do allow me that feature.
Yeah, no, it's the world's gonna look different. That's for sure. I was talking to somebody. There's a couple of key moments in history, right? There's a pre 9/11 and post 9/11 world, right? Mm-hmm. And here locally, for sure, there's a pre Katrina, post Katrina world, right? And I think wide, right, there's going to be a pre-COVID, post-COVID world. And there's going to be a lot of innovation that comes out of this, out of what's going down, right? What's happening. If you looked at 2008 recession, that's where Uber, Airbnb, a couple of other companies, that's where they were born out of, right? They came out of that recession. Mm-hmm. The gig economy came out of the recession. It was seeded during the recession, and then of late, right, of the last 3-4 years is really when it took off. But those companies started during that recession time. So right now, a year from now, there's going to be companies that start forming to address needs of the business community, of people, of healthcare, and they're being formed today, right? Or the ideas are being formed today, and you're going to see them 5-7 years from now. Don't be surprised if there's $1 billion company, right, that started in the next 6 months, right? Hopefully it's me, right? But
I think all startups hope for that, right?
Yeah. There's companies that start out of this, right? There's some innovative companies that are going to, out of necessity, people are putting together products for hospitals to use. Think about that. No FDA approval, nothing. They're just like, we need XYZ. If somebody can make it, we'll use it. Mm-hmm. And they're going to take that product and say, when all this is said and done, they're going to go get a patent on it and then say, during the crisis, 10 hospitals used our product and it served 5,000 patients, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to get investor money and they're going to turn that product into $1 billion product, right? So it's, and why did it happen? Because we just need something. Like, go make us something that we can use.
Right. Yeah, sometimes the best ideas are born out of pure necessity. in times of crisis. When you have no option because what you currently have doesn't work, there's so much room for innovation that exists within that window that people who realize it and take advantage of it and actually, capitalize on that are going to just shoot and skyrocket forward once everything clears and the water turns back clear. We're going to realize people got creative while they were at home.
Oh yeah, I mean they got a lot of time on their hands, right?
Exactly.
There's only so much homeschooling you can do, right?
That's right. Yeah. Speak from experience. There's only so much schooling you can do before you just want to call it a day. Okay, but I want to get a little
respect for teachers.
Yeah, there's teachers. They sit on a new level, man. They do that every day. They homeschool every day, right?
Yes. Yeah. You can't pay me like whatever I'm paying is well worth it.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I want to get a little technical with the app as we kind of start to wind down a little bit. Let's take a look. I want to see both sides and kind of have a walkthrough of both sides. If I'm a patient and I'm going to use Relief Telemed, what do I need to do? Where do I need to get it? And what is the experience?
Yeah, so you can go to any app store, right? Android or Apple. You just search Relief Telemed. You can you just download the app. Once you download the app, you just like any other secure app, you'll create an account. And then once you create an account, we designed it to mimic the doctor's office workflow, right? So think of when you go to doctor's office, what are the steps that happen during a doctor's visit? It's the same steps, except for it's all virtual, right? So it's quicker, it's more efficient. So you'll go in, you'll punch in your insurance information, it'll verify it, check for a copay or high deductible, collect a payment, just like at a doctor's office. And then you'll go through a series of 4 or 5 screens where we'll ask, what's the issue today? Do you have any underlying conditions, any family history, any medications you're on? And that's about it. Any allergies that you have. And then you sit literally in a virtual waiting room, right? Mm-hmm. And the beauty of telemedicine is you're not sitting in a waiting room wasting time, right? So you can take your phone, get the app, right, and just put it down, right, while you're working, right, and wait for the doctor to accept your visit. So on the other side, on the doctor side, they get a ping or a notification through a tablet that we give them that lets them know that somebody's waiting for a virtual visit. So they get on. And they can use any web browser and they just need a computer with a webcam. So there's no special software, no special hardware that they need to get going. And literally, they jump into the platform, they see you, they grab your they grab your patient record, they review what you submitted through the app, and then they initiate a video. So when they initiate a video, you'll get a notification on your phone saying the doctor wants to chat with you, and you literally just pick it up, press play, and you start talking, right? And then once you're done, you can, that's it. The patient writes a prescription. What's up, dude? You going to bed? Okay, I'll see you in a little bit. Sorry, it's my little one.
All good, all good.
Yeah, I'll see you in a little bit. All right, good night. He's out. He's laughing. But so you jump on there, and so where we're a little different. Can you go? Where we're a little different is. So we've bridged the gap where traditional telemedicine stops, right? So what doctors told us was, we love telemedicine, it's great, but there's only so much you can do over video and audio, right? At some point, there's some testing that needs to happen. There's some further evaluation that needs to happen that we just can't do over telemedicine. Now, people are doing it right now because literally you're not supposed to be in the same room together, right? But before it was, hey, if you have the option to come to the clinic, come to the clinic. And so what we did was we created this concept of a nurse network. So that is a team of field nurses that are roaming the streets, right? And think of waiter drivers, right? Or grocery delivery drivers. Same concept, except a nurse, right? And so during the video visit, the doctor can actually say, I'm going to run a flu test on you. And I'm going to send somebody to your house. And so the doctor literally through our platforms order a flu test. And the nurse that is nearest your location, whether your house or office, will get a ping on her phone saying, hey, Patrick Grimion needs a flu test, go to his house. So she'll literally show up at your house and she'll run a flu test and give the results to the doctor within 15 minutes. So you literally as a patient never have to leave your office or your home and you get the same level of healthcare as if you had actually gone to the clinic. So that's what really makes us different than all the other telemedicine platforms that are out there. Is we layer in that stuff that has to be done in person. We give that functionality to the doctor. So which is why they love it. They like it because now their scope of practice went from this on telemedicine to now this, right?
Right.
They can do a lot. So we've got a lot of great feedback, and I mean, right now we pulled down our nurse network for safety reasons. We just can't get a steady supply of protective equipment for them, and we can't in good conscience ask these nurses to go into people's homes not fully protected. So that was the downside of what's going on for us. Is the one thing that differentiated us. We had to pull it down, but that's okay because on the other side of this, we'll be ready to roll, and as soon as we get our hands on some protective gear for the nurses, we'll be back in business, right? So
right.
So it's telemedicine, it's virtual care, but it really is the full scope. So we've been working on it for 2 years now, and now we're finally ready to roll with this thing, and we've got nothing but positive feedback, nothing but great reviews on it, and people are excited to see let's put it this way, I've had more investors calling me in the last week than I had in the last year and a half.
They want to invest when the market's down, right?
Oh, they want to invest in the company. Like they're like, oh, telemedicine, that's all we read about. You've been talking to me for a year about it. I'm finally ready. It's like, you're going to have to hold your horses. Wait till the price gets a little bit steeper for you to get in. So
we're doing well right now.
Yeah, it was cheaper for you 6 months ago. Now it's going to be a little bit more expensive for you. So it's a good problem to have. But so that's how you can find us. You just go to any app store, search Relief Telemed. Right now we've got clinical partners in Baton Rouge, in Alexandria, and we're about to pick up some in the North Shore. So we're kind of expanding our network. But we got providers ready right now, 24/7 that can see you if something arises after 9 p.m. or at any time in the middle of the night. If you're not feeling well, you can jump on our app, and there's a doctor out there that's going to be willing to see you. So,
dude, I love that, and I can't wait to see where it goes and how it grows within the community and then across the globe. Obviously, we want it to go across the globe, right? But to kind of start wrapping up, what are 2 lessons that you've learned along the way that have stuck with you?
In the last 2 weeks, or just in general?
Whichever you think are going to be best.
You're never ready. There's never a right time. I think you just have to go. You just got to press the button, right? And once you press that button, you can prepare all you want. It's like having a kid. You can think you're ready, and you can have everything mentally ready and all that stuff. But as soon as you press that button, things start changing, right? You think you have customer support and you've got the process down before you go live. As soon as you go live, it's gonna flip on its head, right? Because you don't know exactly how it's gonna work until you actually put it in motion, right? So you're never ready. So you just gotta do it and then roll with the punches afterwards, right? And you gotta massage that situation a little bit, right? The client is not always gonna be happy, right? But you gotta be able to massage it to keep them happy. Right. So 1, you're never ready. 2 is, you just, when it's your time, you just got to grind. I mean, there's, when that moment arrives, you just got to jump all in, right. And give it 200-300% of your energy. Because it may not come back around. Right. And you may not get that moment. And Chris told us something when this all happened. I called him a little overwhelmed, right? Because it's like the moment is huge, right? A little overwhelmed. And he goes, take a deep breath. He goes, this is what you do now for the next 3 months could potentially change your life. And so when he put it that way, it was like, yeah, you're right. Let's just put our head down and grind for the next 3 months, because it could literally change the direct trajectory of this company, right? And so that's what we kind of do when we wake up at 5 in the morning, or when we're on calls at 10, 11 o'clock at night trying to recap the night. what we just tell ourselves is, this is our moment. Like, that's our mantra. Our mantra within our company right now is, this is our moment. This is our moment. Like, just fight through it. This is our moment. When you're tired, this is our moment, right? That's what kind of keeps you going. So, just be ready to grind, man, because it may not come back around, and you don't know if you're going to get that chance again. So, you're never ready, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
when it happens, jump all in and give it everything you got, because you don't know what's going to happen. So those are two things that I've learned. It's like it's been what I thought I knew. It has completely changed in the last 2 weeks.
Right. That's perfect, man. Okay, so two final questions. What is one thing you love about being in Baton Rouge?
Oh man, I've been here since 2000 when I got to LSU, and I haven't. I left for a year when I went to Chicago, and I came back. But the one thing I love about Baton Rouge is community, right? It's literally, you can get in front of someone, right? Whether it's professionally or personally, within 2 to 3 degrees, right? It's like, you ask around and you can make friends with somebody, right? If you really want to be friends with someone, you ask around, you can really get that meeting. And it doesn't matter. It could be the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. You can find a way to get to them because everyone is so connected, right? I've always called Baton Rouge the little big city, right? It's a city, but it's little in the sense that everyone knows each other, right? And you can find people pretty easily if you want to. That's what I love about Baton Rouge, and that's what kind of keeps me here is the sense of community.
Okay, so one final question: what would you change about Baton Rouge?
I think it's happened. I felt Baton Rouge was a little bit stuck in the rut in terms of moving forward with innovation and trying new things, and being accepting of different ways of doing stuff, right? And I think all that has changed, right? And I think it's going to be for the positive, right? And so it'll be interesting to see how much of it stays, how much of it gets adopted, and how much of it reverts back. Some of it will revert back, but the thing that I always never liked was how people always said, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Well, what people didn't realize, it was actually really broken, right? It just looked fixed on the top, and it took something like that for me to realize, like, shit's broken underneath, man, right? And so it hopefully a large piece of this stays, in the sense of a lot of the stuff that we talked about tonight. I hope a lot of it stays, because man, that's how these other cities grow. That's how they progress, and that's how they move forward, is by adopting new ideas and trying and taking some risks, right? Whereas here, I think traditionally people have this has worked for the last 10, 15 years. We don't need to push the envelope too far, right? Let's do incremental changes, right? Right. And so now we've been forced to make a huge change, right? And hopefully it stays. Hopefully it works out, and Baton Rouge is better for it, or New Orleans is better for it, or the whole region is better for it, right? Right. So that's my soapbox.
And I'm right there with you. It's understanding and realizing when change is happening, how can we continue to implement what worked and fine tune what didn't work during those times is going to be crucial moving forward, especially once we get out of this, this global pandemic we're in. And I'm sure whenever somebody's listening back to this or watching this back, however many months or maybe a year or so down the line, they're going to look back at that and say, oh, wow, hey, that actually stuck around. Or those guys had no idea what they were talking about. None of that stuff stuck. And I'm curious to see what it's going to be like. It could be either. And, I listened to an episode that I had 2 weeks ago where we only had 5 cases in the state. And that was 2 weeks ago. And just to see the change that's happened in 2 weeks, I'm curious to see what's going to happen listening back on this and realizing, oh, wow, what that time was like and what all we learned. So thank you, Vishal, for coming on the show tonight. I really appreciate your time. I know it's getting late and the kiddos and everybody's trying to get to bed. So thank you for doing this and finally making this happen. I really appreciate it, man.
No worries. And my last PSA, because I'm in the industry, stay safe, social distancing. This is serious. I got inside, obviously I'm on the inside, and it's still going to get worse before it gets better. So, for people that are listening or listen over the next few days, just hunker down and make the best of it for the next 2-3 weeks. Otherwise, this is going to be a long haul. So, 6 feet, remember 6 feet and take it seriously.
That's right. I sign my emails now with stay safe and wash those hands.
Yeah.
So thank you for everybody listening and watching, and for Vishal for coming on the show. Really appreciate that. You have been listening or watching to the Patty G Show. I am Patty G, your host, signing off with Vishal Vasanji of Relief Telemed. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Good night.